I'll never forget when Bobby was little. I'll never forget when Bobby was little, and I thought I wasn't going to survive him. And you looked at me with a smile on your face, shook your head, and you said, "Don't worry, he'll be okay. He's just another Joey." Right? Remember that?
Yes.
And you were right.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not the subject of a terrible roast. Everybody had a story on
I wish
Joe.
I were there for that.
He deserved
Well, I
it.
must tell you, the other
He
side
did.
of
Took
it,
it gracefully, though. He did.
Joe did many beautiful things. He was never a vicious kid, but he was full of mischief. And one of the things Mom reminded me of yesterday when we talked about this was the time that, and a storekeeper across the street, Joe was driving our pickup down through town, and he saw something over on the sidewalk of somebody kicking an old man, and knocked him to the street and kicking him. Joe stopped the automobile, left it right in the middle of Highway 140, went over and grabbed the guy and shoved him, and he said, "Cut it out." And he broke it up, and he knocked the guy against the wall, and knew that the other guy got up, and he went on in his way. But Joe never told us that. But Les Trabucco said, "Did you know what Joe did one day?" I said, "I never heard of it before." That was one of the nice stories about Joe. Juvenile court, as well as every other type of judge, you had to be up in a one-county judge court, and one judge county. And he was in high school, his last year in high school, and also played on a team that never won a game. But the guys, after Friday night, after something or other, decided to go out and raise a little hell. And they talked over what they would do, and Joe said, "If you guys don't mind, I'll excuse myself and go home." He said, "Whatever we do, we're going to get in trouble. I might embarrass my dad, which I can't do because he's a juvenile judge. You guys know this." I thought it took a lot of guts to do that. I've ever had one on on our 25th wedding anniversary. I decided a few months ahead of time to give a total surprise to Katharine.
We were in Mariposa then.
Jeanette was in school in New York, and I said when she was home at Christmas, "Do you think if I sent you a plane ticket, the nuns would let you come home for our anniversary?" She said, "Sure, if you send me a ticket." And so we arranged to invite 25 of our oldest and dearest friends from out of town. And we did. And so on the afternoon before the anniversary, as a ruse, I drove Katharine to Merced, the shop ostensibly, while Peter and Jeanette could get to Mariposa without being seen, and her mother and dad, and my sister and brother-in-law could get to Mariposa. So we did, and we got back and came into the patio, and in the window was her mother and father. Oh, on the way up, she almost cried. She said, "You know, I'm hurt. No one in our family has sent us a card or a telephone call about tomorrow. I'm hurt." She walked up to the house, and here was her dad in the window. She said, "Oh, there's Dad." She went in the kitchen, and the piano was playing. Jeanette, piece she played so beautifully was Claire de Lune, my favorite. And here was Jeanette playing Claire de Lune. And Katharine happened to look through divided the dining room from the living room. She said, "You know, Molly and Jeanette are getting to look so much alike." And I said, "Well, look again." And there was Jeanette playing piano. She hadn't expected it. So anyway, I don't know where you were at the moment. Did you come
You was
anyway?
I was there.
The next morning, I said, Katharine, the priest at one time that Katharine said, "When we're 25 years married, I'd like to have Father so-and-so renew our vows." I arranged for him to come from Stockton to renew our vows. So we walk into the church, and before we walked into that little 100-year-old church, the organ is playing, which is unusual during the week. And Katharine said, "This is unusual. What's the organ doing?" So we opened the door, and in the church were these 25 of our dearest friends. Of course, the tears started to come. And then, so we sat down, and lo and behold, out from the altar came the priest from Stockton and our pastor. And Peter, we knew, served Mass, but little Joe had never served Mass. But he'd been trained during that week to serve Mass, and he and Joe we were so proud to have these two kids on the serving the Mass. And then during the Mass, after we got the papal blessing and all that, Katharine said, "My goodness, we just can't break this up. We've got to find a way of taking home and do something." I said, "Oh, don't worry about it. I'll take them home and we'll get them drunk." And so we got home, and here was a beautiful breakfast all prepared. Molly had arranged a caterer to do everything, and we We had the most beautiful February, sunny, warm, sunny day. And we had this beautiful party out in our patio with all these. Anyway, it was a great time. Then, so we invited everybody. We said, let's go up to the Awani, to a cocktail party. And we stayed at the Awani that night. And at 5 o'clock, I had Katharine go take a rest because she was nervously worn out. And at 5 o'clock, another 50 people came in who are Mariposa friends that she wasn't expecting. This was the second surprise that day, or third or fourth surprise. And so there was a beautiful cocktail party. And anyway, we came home the next day, had dinner at the Iwani, and then all came home the next day. And they'd had such a good time, they wouldn't go home. So the 25 San Francisco friends who were supposed to go home the next day went back and picked up their rooms at the motels in Mariposa and stayed another night and came to our party home and had a wonderful party the second night. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Our poor little car was falling apart, and I kept saying, oh, wouldn't it be wonderful to have one of those darling little Peugeots? I'd always dreamed I should have a Peugeot. So by gum, if he didn't have somebody come and remove our old car, it was a pickup, wasn't it?
Yeah.
From the garage, and put the little brand new Peugeot in the garage, and then Barbara Lortzen took a ribbon and tied it to the back of the car and went around the whole house with this ribbon. She kept tying it together, went down by the swimming pool and the back of the house, by the back, and all the way, it even went through the house part of the
Yes,
time.
sure. Went all through the house.
Out to the car, and there was my Peugeot. I thought, how marvelous if we could really surprise him. How do you ever really surprise anybody? But anyway, I started to work on it about 3 months ahead of time and get Peter's help, bless his heart, and he really worked on it too. So that was the idea, to have the party down there at his lovely place and get all the invitations to go out from there and all the responses to go back there, so nothing would come to our house and no phone calls, nothing. And by golly, it worked like a charm. Every morning I'd get up and in the wee hours, about 4:30 or 5, and go in and pretend I was studying the Bible. Sometimes I was, but most of the time I wasn't. And I would work on the guest list, or what has happened, or what do we do now? And my gosh, it worked like a charm. And he was totally surprised. It was just one glorious, happy occasion.
And I was living in 1980 when this party occurred, but I got a hold of Virginia Haig, your singer, way back then in the 30s, and she really lit up to this idea, and she knew who was still alive and where they were, and invited the 7 or 8 people that are still around playing music, and we gathered them. We gave them a free weekend is what we did to get them there, and they came with their instruments, and they couldn't have had a better time. They instantly clicked with their music again. They were able to play the old theme song. They needed very little rehearsal. Anyway, when he walked into the room at about 5 o'clock that Saturday afternoon, unsuspecting of any of this, the band took the beat and went into the music, the old music that his theme song and Happy Birthday, and it knocked him over. Knocked you over because you didn't know we were doing it.
I didn't know.
You had said, you had called me one day and said, well, it'd be nice to have some live music, Peter. Why don't you hire a local band? I said, I'll take care of it. That was the way it started.
Yeah.
So I took care of it.
Buffet that Peter and Sherry put on. In came a cake that was, guys said it was this big, on a big thing. And it was, this catered person had made the cake. It was a replica of the courthouse in Mariposa, 1854 across the front. And out on the lawn was a drummer boy, no, it was a judge in a robe playing the drums.
So that covers your 75th birthday party at the Valley Lodge in 1980. And 4 years later, 1984, was your 50th wedding anniversary. And since Yosemite had become such a special place for all of us over the years, you working there with your bands back in the 20s or 30s, I working there as a college student,
Both girls.
Molly
And
Molly
Joey,
and Jeannie
everybody.
and Joey, all of us having worked there in Yosemite, and your 25th wedding anniversary being in part at the Iwani Hotel. We decided we wanted to go back to the Iwani for your 50th anniversary and rented a bungalow in the forest for the weekend of this very weekend 4 years ago. the weekend of February 5th and 6th. And had just the immediate family, the children and the grandchildren. And there were, I guess, 20 of us in all. And we were there for the whole weekend. It was a wonderful, warm,
Beautiful weather.
beautiful
Just dreamy.
anniversary.
No skiing, unfortunately.
No.
Everybody
Bike
was
riding.
disappointed.
Yeah, but it was
I can't.
just a lot of warmth and a lot of love. Over 26 years of living in Mariposa, very happily. Mom and Dad with this lovely ranch, 100-acre ranch, a water system, cattle, about an acre of flowers and so forth. They wisely realized that they might not be as healthy forever as they were then, and chose to move back to the Bay Area, Walnut Creek, where they had lived for a number of years, quite a bit earlier. We had all lived there. And so they bought a condominium at Rossmore and moved in there in 1979, and have been living there ever since.
Very
Happily
happily.
so.
Very happily.
Thank